Welcome to Childcare Rockstar Radio. I am your host, Kris Murray. Childcare leaders around the globe are breaking through challenges, leading the way in innovation, testing new best practices, and impacting children and families in a much more powerful and positive way than ever before. Each week, join me for interviews with early childhood leaders and experts that will leave you inspired to become the next childcare rockstar. Now, let's go. This is Childcare Rockstar Radio, episode 166, featuring Maria Ahrens. Hey folks, welcome back to the podcast. I'm thrilled that you joined me today. Today is our last and final episode of 2023, and I'm bringing you an incredible conversation with Maria Ahrens, owner and founder of Paper Planes Early Learning Center in New York. And we talk about a focus on helping moms feel comfortable and supported. And that is the title of today's episode, and so much more as we learn about Maria, who was one of our incredible runner-up contestants in the Childcare Rockstar contest at the Summit 2023. And she was on stage presenting her wins, her how she changed and transformed her business this past year, strategies, best practices, and all the results that she achieved. And we are so proud of Maria's accomplishments, and we wanted to feature here for you to learn straight from her how she built such an amazing childcare business. So on today's episode, we will dive into learning about Maria's vision of why she started this school and why she named it Paper Planes, and how she is best in class in her market. She's got an incredible culture. You can learn a lot from her leadership style, how she markets her business, and what sets her apart in her marketplace, and so much more. Also, we talk about focus. Focus is critical. And for her, really, what she gained from this year working in coaching with us was a focus on systems and policies, procedures, structure in her business, and understanding the roles in her org chart, trying to provide structure and clarity in her roles, and really creating like crisp job descriptions and an actual organization chart, or accountability chart, as we call it sometimes in the academy, with increasing levels of efficiency. So when you dive into providing a very clear and crisp set of roles and distinction and job descriptions and lanes, so you're developing lanes inside of your company where people have clarity on what positions are doing what tasks, and it creates this whole new level of efficiency for your business. So we talk all about that in today's podcast, as well as mindset and so much more. So one thing that I want you to know about is that tomorrow, if you're listening to this episode live on its release date, tomorrow, which would be Friday, December 22nd, 2023, is our final day for you to get in on an incredible deal, which is our Childcare Success Summit recordings. We're calling it the Summer Leadership Experience in a Box. You can take your leadership team and do a virtual summit experience and re-experience the entire summit virtually with all the recordings of the sessions, as well as new worksheets, a workbook, a set of tools and templates designed to help you experience the summit sessions in a whole new way. And we deliver that to you in a box, and we really give you a framework for how to take your leadership team and, potentially go off and do a little mini retreat with them, with a ton of bonuses. And we even throw in lunch. So you get a $50 DoorDash lunch card from us to buy a meal for your team and do a leadership training virtual retreat with them. So you can learn all about that at childcaresuccess.com. And at the top of the page there, you'll see a graphic that shows the leadership box and the opportunity to get lifetime access to this incredible content, as well as a free ticket to the Childcare Success Summit 2024 in Chicago next fall. And this is the only time all year that we offer a completely free ticket. So you'll definitely want to take us up on this incredible deal. And it ends tomorrow, Friday, December 22nd. So don't miss out. And this is a great holiday gift for you to invest in for your team and for yourself and for your business. So childcaresuccess.com. All right, guys, we are going to dive in and meet Maria. She is a special human. She has a really cool vibe about how she presents her story and talks about helping moms feel more confident and comfortable and supported in parenting. She's really got some amazing expertise. And so I wanted to bring her to you so that you could feel that and get some inspiration around that. And it will hopefully help inspire you to your own unique brilliance of what you would like to offer and what is your niche, what is your special gift to offer to other parents and or children and or teachers, leaders in your community, and getting out there in a bigger way and sharing your gifts, or what I have sometimes referred to as sharing your brownies. So having the courage to get out of your comfort zone and maybe even do some TikToks, some Facebook lives, some Instagram lives, sharing your content, maybe offering some parent webinars. There's so much that you could be doing to get yourself out into the community and into the world in a bigger way, sharing your gifts. So hopefully this episode will inspire you a little bit with that. And let's dive right in with Maria Ahrens with Paper Planes ELC, Childcare Rockstar finalist. Enjoy the episode. Take notes and take action on what you learn. Let's go. Welcome back to the podcast, everybody. I am very excited today to introduce you to a great lady, runner-up in the Childcare Rockstar contest that we recently had at the Childcare Success Summit in Orlando. Miss Maria Ahrens, how are you?
I'm doing pretty great. Thank you for asking. How are you?
I'm doing great. Welcome to the podcast.
Thank you so much.
Yeah. So where are you right now, Maria?
Well, I'm in my office and it's pickup time here in New York. So, I was just mentioning that I have total ADHD. I'm going to do my best to stay focused and not get distracted when I hear a parent say hello. I'm going to stay present.
Very good. And where in New York are you?
We're on Long Island. So,
okay.
It's further out east away from the city. We're in Suffolk County.
Awesome.
Yeah.
And what is the name of your school, your early learning business? Tell us more about your program.
Planes, it's called Paper Planes Early Learning Center.
Okay.
Paper Planes was actually named, you can see this tattoo right here. It's named after my very dear friend, Vicky, who passed away of cystic fibrosis. And she had this tattoo on her arm. And she has, was one of my friends since third grade and kept pushing me to open my own daycare. And I kept chickening out. And after she died, I was like, what am I waiting for? So I ended up coming up with naming it Paper Planes, which felt fitting, not just because of her, but because of sort of what it represents for children. And so it was a perfect fit.
Love that.
Yeah.
So she's your inspiration and you carry her with you on your arm always.
Absolutely.
Yep. And tell us, when did you found Paper Planes?
So 2020, September 2020, post COVID, we opened, but we started negotiating the lease before COVID hit. So, that put a damper on some things for
right.
sure. I wish we had negotiated after the fact. I think I would have worked a lot harder to protect us because it's a triple net in a really large building. We're like in an old learning experience building.
Okay.
So it's 10,400 square feet. It's big. It's beautiful. But we weren't prepared for COVID for sure.
Right. You definitely might have been able to get a better deal is what you're saying if you had waited. But you didn't know. But at least, I don't know if you had to put your plans on hold to a great degree or just a little bit? In other words, some people that we've had on the podcast literally
Mhm.
opened up either their first or second or third location on March 10th or something, like
Oh,
4 days before ground zero hit on COVID. Do you know what I mean?
right,
So
right.
you were still in the planning process, you signed your lease, but
Yeah,
hopefully you didn't have that much out of pocket between March and September.
right. Yeah. Yep.
So
You're right. We did okay in that front for sure.
yeah, yeah. So tell us a little bit more about the size of your school and in terms of capacity in your current enrollment. Any other
Yeah.
kind of stats how many teachers do you employ, that kind of thing?
Okay. So we are currently licensed for over 100. It's like under 120. It does stagger and change sometimes because we have a special license for continuity of care. I don't know if you've ever heard of that, but um, continuity of care basically gives you a permission to have infants and toddlers in a mixed age group,
Okay.
because it's not legal to do, at least in New York,
Mhm.
otherwise. So that's something that we provide so that we don't have to shuffle kids so much. So the competitors around me often move kids, when they're mobile, they move them to another room. Then when they're walking, they move them to another room, and they might have 3 transitions before they get to preschool.
Right.
So we have a maximum of 1 transition only before they go to preschool,
Okay.
so that
So
they have the
that's
same caregiver and same set of friends.
okay. That's cool. So that's kind of one of your unique selling points or
Yeah,
differentiators. Cool.
right.
How did you get into the amazing world of ECE?
So it chose me. I have loved babies in particular. Since I was really, really young, I found myself, in church, kind of grabbing the babies right away. When I was 10 years old, I started babysitting. I was very mature. I had 4 older brothers. So I spent a lot of time with older kids and older people. And um, I got hired as a babysitter, like paid babysitter at 10 years old. So babysitting solo. I flew to Florida as a babysitter. At 12, I was, into that from a really young age. I grew up at a ski resort in New York and
Mm.
worked in the child care centers there, and then just kind of kept going with it. I did eventually start going into teaching because I played sports in high school. So I loved how I had a relationship with my teachers in school, and then they coached me, and it was great. I went to a really small high school. So I wanted that experience as an adult, but I did not love it. Like, I taught first and second grade, and it wasn't the same love that I had for infants and toddlers and the younger group. So
Mm.
I went back into childcare and actually got my master's in marriage and family therapy because I loved working with the families a lot. And I don't technically use that degree, but I do use that degree every day.
Yeah.
Between the families and the staff, I have 25 staff currently. We kind of flip flop between 24 to 28. In the summers, we have more staff on staff, but so it's bigger than it's not the biggest I've run as a director. I've run, over 35 staff, but it's still enough to keep me very busy.
Yeah. So you were a director before you started this.
Yes.
And
Yeah.
how long did you do that?
10 years.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I first became a director when I was living in Colorado. So I used to live in Colorado, in Edgewater.
Okay.
And that's where I first became a director.
Which is basically a suburb of Denver. It's a
Yeah.
neighborhood in Denver, right?
Yeah.
Edgewater. Yeah.
Yep.
Cool. Very, very cool. Love that.
Yeah.
Um, and then you got inspired to realize this is your life's journey. And so you started your own school.
Yeah. Yep.
And but you moved from Colorado back to New York. So is that for family reasons or just you?
Yeah. I had a baby. I got
Okay.
married. I have a husband who's been great while I've been opening this. It's only been 3 years. So we're still in those beginning stages where I am here a lot.
Okay.
Um, he's great. He does all the things. We have 2 kids. So Emmett is 9, and he's who I had when I was in Denver,
Okay.
and decided to move back because of that. And I literally had him applied for an SBA loan to buy the daycare that I was directing. and got approved for it. It
Oh,
took
wow.
6 months to get approved. It was crazy. It was the hardest thing because I had no credit. I was young. I was in my, 20s at that time.
Uh-huh.
Um, it was really hard to get approved. I got approved. And then when I got approved, I almost threw up. I was like, I don't want to be here for 10 years. Like, I gotta go home. Um, so I was like, I don't. So we
Yeah.
moved home and then, it was really hard, actually. I have to say it was a hard transition leaving Denver. I didn't realize how the culture shock of coming back to New York would
Yeah.
impact me so much.
Yeah.
Um, and so it took me like a couple years to really come out of like a little bit of depression, actually, with just like, where's the sun for one?
Yes. Thank
No
you.
sunshine.
Yeah.
Um, and the people are better in Denver. They're just
Hey,
nicer,
come
happier.
on.
Yeah, people are just genuinely really happy.
Yeah.
And or it was hard. So we finally found our home. We moved a couple times back east to try to figure out our place. Long Island
Right.
is a really fit. We live in very close to a beach town. We are beach people, so we go every weekend. My
Yeah.
son surfs. It's great. So I also have a daughter, Nora. She's 7. So
Okay.
we're busy.
Cute.
Busy.
Love it. Well, you and I have similar journeys that way because I grew up in Cleveland, Ohio, and we were in Colorado, and I met my husband and got pregnant, had the first baby. And then with baby Owen, when Owen was 1, we moved back
Yeah.
to be with the family and
Right.
moved back to Ohio. But I was same thing. My husband and I were like, where's the sun?
Yeah.
And people here in Cleveland, God love them, but they're just not as happy because maybe they're just around gray skies all the time and it just makes you
Yeah.
more grumpy. I don't
It
know.
does. I do think there's definitely something to the sun, right?
Yeah, for sure. So thanks for sharing that. And so you and your hubby are raising these kids, Emmett and Nora, and I love that. And do you guys have any other hobbies and interests? I mean, you mentioned you like to go to the beach. Is there anything
Yeah.
else that you want to share?
No, I mean, we are, beach loving. We have a really great community. We happened to fall into an amazing little neighborhood where during COVID, we met our little crew. We call them the crew. It's like the kids all get along, the parents all get along. We have a
Oh,
really great, and we're in walking distance from all of those families. And so,
uh-huh.
it's fun. Like
That's
we're
fun.
having a really fun time adulting right now and
That's
raising.
great.
Yeah.
Yeah. I remember that time as well. And like trick or treating is always fun because then the
Yeah.
adults can all pal around and everybody can kind of go as a group if you want and have your adult
Absolutely.
beverage if you want to and all that
Yep.
stuff. So it's fun. Good
Exactly
times.
what we
Love
do.
that.
It's
Love
great.
that. What is a fun fact about you that hardly anyone knows about you?
So, the close people in my life obviously know. I think nobody in the academy knows that I'm a doula. I'm a certified doula and birth educator. So I don't get to do it very often because of my work here, and being on call is challenging.
Yeah.
Uh, but it is something that I love. I love the birth world. I had Nora at home by choice.
Wow.
And honestly would have had Emmett at home. But there were no nurse midwives. There was like one in Denver when I had him.
Mm,
I'm sure there's more now, but it just
yeah.
wasn't really a thing. And I wanted somebody that could resuscitate and know what to do.
Right.
So I am in the birth world as well.
Nice.
Yeah.
Cool. And also a highlight with that is Annie on our team, who's our
I know. Yes.
concierge. She's also a doula. So
Yeah.
very, very cool. Love that. So tell us a little bit more about your program, Paper Planes. You mentioned about the continuity of care component, which is very, very cool. What are some of the other leading unique selling points or unique benefits that you market to differentiate yourself?
So I would say number one is who we are culturally. There's a palpable feeling in our building. That's really always been my strong point when I was a director out in Denver. People are my strong point, and just being me, I'm like, I don't know how to be any other way. So I connect with people really easily. And so I think that one of those selling points is that I'm very transparent, sometimes to a fault. It can, like, sometimes I overshare for sure. And then I have to be like, hope that was comfortable for you. But I think transparency has been instilled. I think one thing that I've really loved about opening from scratch has been that I do see a difference in the culture because I built it this way, right? We interview exactly how I'm talking to you. Our interviews are very fluid, and I just want to get to know people and kind of feel it out. And so in turn, we end up hiring people that feel this comfortable, right? So not that we don't have duds, we have duds for sure, and people that fake you out in a big way. And then you're like, what happened there? But for the most part, everybody that works here is just really cool to be around. And so they love what they do and they like people and they have good vibes. So I'd say the feeling is probably our number one. And people will say that they tour and they're like, I need to be here. Like they will leave. We don't have to really close a tour. It's like it happens very naturally.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's probably number one. Number two would be the play-based model. We really focus on that. So my preschool teacher, who is that's her unique brilliance, is like all the hands-on, sensory, messy fun. And so she's really inspired me to make that our culture also and our philosophy. I've always loved it, but it wasn't my passion in particular. Right? My passion was like babies and making moms feel comfortable. Like that was really my thing.
Cool.
Behavior focus. Like I'm very social emotional behavior focused. That's from my therapy background, and just believing wholeheartedly that when kids feel loved and safe, then they do better. Right. And so I think the play-based model has really become a part of who we are, because the kids are having fun. They love it. They're learning, and we see that it works. So that's a big part of who we've become also. And then I'd say that, so, I think those are our main point. The transparency piece is big. Parents, I think, whether you have good news or bad news, they want to know all of it.
Right.
And the way that we do that is, we're just not hiding anything. So I feel like they know that, and we can have really hard conversations. And I train my staff to have hard conversations. They'll sit up front. If they don't know how to do that, I make them sit up front while I make a phone call so that they can eventually do it. I don't, it takes time for sure to develop those. When I was working in Denver, however many, 15 years ago, I needed coaching. So Claire, my old boss there, would, guide me through having those hard conversations. And so you just develop it. So one thing that, has really, I've actually had a couple people buy me a gift that says, I have it on my wall, a sign of a good leader is not how many followers you have, but how many leaders you create, which is a Gandhi quote, right? So I believe that, like, truly. So I think part of what makes us who we are is that the parents have really strong relationships with the staff because I let them. Yeah. Right. We're not the center that says, like, I don't approve messages unless they ask me to. If a teacher says, like, can you read this? Do you mind checking? Writing is definitely one of my unique brilliances. So I can formulate an email and make it hit home. So I do guide them with that if they want it, but I mostly kind of let them do their thing. And I trust that every mistake that they make is a mistake they're going to grow from. Right. I had to make mistakes. And so it's okay. They feel comfortable making those for the most part.
That's awesome. So we segued right into leadership style. But before we get there, I love the transparency component and that you're just embracing you. Like you're going, this is part of the way that I live my life. And so as a transparent, open communicator and leader and a people connector, and a culture builder, I'm going to just like be me and dive into my essence and then be real. And then my school is going to reflect all of those components and those characteristics, which are all very beautiful. And so I just think that that's very, very cool. So I just wanted to mention that.
Yeah, thank you.
You're welcome. I want to ask you, do you happen to have any video of yourself teaching or talking to moms or doing any kind of Facebook lives or little classes or little snippets or reels or anything like that? Because I think
I don't have a lot of them, and I actually don't have any, I think, of my recent ones. I do have like one video where I would do workshops when we were in New Jersey, we've lived all over. But
yeah,
I recorded one of those workshops, which I do on positive guidance with kids, and just kind of, bringing it down to a level where parents feel normal, that like it's really, really hard to be a parent, and kids are so much better for teachers than they are for parents, right? So we have
yes,
it easy as teachers in some ways because our expectations, mostly for the most part, get followed.
yeah.
Whereas a parent, it's much harder to be consistent with your own child. I am great with other people's kids. I can't do any of this stuff with my own. My husband's like, I thought this was what you did. And I'm like, well,
Right.
yeah, no, I do, but for other people.
Yeah.
So I think it's normalizing how hard it is and making that connection with people. But also I do have a
Yeah.
lot of a big part of my skill set is being able to help with behaviors and coaching parents on that. At one point, I used to do a lot of like sleep training with parents. That's like the baby side of things. I don't do that anymore, but um, behaviorally, I'm able to really help both parents and teachers with like, here, we're going to implement this and let's put this plan into place.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, I do have, but is your point that I should start maybe recording those?
Yeah. I just think I'm feeling an untapped gem in you doing a few more of those, because when you said helping moms feel comfortable, it
Yeah.
hit me that
Yeah.
you will have a lot of success in doing some of that content
Right.
and being of service and getting that message out there about parenting being hard. I mean, you have a lot to share. So I just think the more that you feel to do some of that, you're going to
Yeah.
get, it's just going to help you cement relationships with the community.
Right.
You'll attract teachers for sure,
Right.
educators, and you'll attract more parent clients. And
Right.
so that's something that I think you would be amazing at. So I love
Oh,
that.
thank you. Thank
You're
you.
welcome.
Good
Um,
suggestion.
yeah, thank you.
You know,
I see,
coaching.
I see little
Yeah.
things, I see little unique brilliances, and I'm like, you know,
Well, this is
um,
where I would tap into the academy and say like, well, then I really got to stop working in my business so I can work on it and do some of that stuff. Because as a
yeah,
director doing all these other things, I'm like, what am I fitting that in?
yes.
But yeah.
Yeah. So, and if for people listening, the way to fit it in is if you get into a flow, like I got into a really good flow doing Facebook Lives. I just got comfortable with it over the last
Yeah.
15 years. So if I have something to share, it literally can be as easy as, hey, and you just go, doop, and you go live and you go, hey, I was just talking to a mom here at the school and she was dealing with X, Y, and Z. And I thought y'all might get something out of this. And let me just share this. And here's some tips, and it could be literally 3 minutes. But if you get that comfort with it, you'll start having fun with it. It's just a matter of making it be part of your jam, because my daughter's trying to get me on Instagram right now, and she created I have a new Instagram that is separate from childcare success.
Right.
And I don't even know how to go live on Instagram. I don't even barely know how to post any content on Instagram because I'm older, so I'm more of a Facebook girl.
Right.
So
Right.
it's just what you're comfortable with. So
Yeah.
anyways, now I have to take the level of comfort that I had creating content on Facebook and then transition it over
That's
to
right.
Instagram. I guess that
Yeah.
they know,
You're
but
going to do great.
but I'm in the exact same place that you are, because I'm
Yeah.
starting a whole new journey. So with regard to leadership style, I love what you said about your plaque on the wall transforming. The more people that you're growing as leaders is the mark of a true leader. What are some like concrete tips that you use for team engagement and to help build the love with your teachers for teacher retention?
So I think a big thing is just that they feel supported. It's a hard job, right? So I think they don't, they're not nervous to say like, hey, can we get an extra person in here right now? And for the most part, we can do that. We try to staff so that we have an extra person on hand. There's certainly if it happens to be at lunch breaks where everybody is out, then one of us will jump in. It's not like, we're above doing that if we need to do that, where they know we're here to support them. So I think that's been probably number one, has just been like, I've been a teacher in a toddler room and I know how hard it is. So I think that when you have that experience, I certainly think you can be a great leader without having been in a classroom. But I think the fact that I'm like, I, I really can commiserate in some ways, where I'm like, I'll go in that room and be like, wow, you have a hard class right now. Like, this is a hard class. And I had one of my teachers actually reach out to me, text me at night when I had said that. And she's like, you don't understand what you saying I have a hard class did for me, because I was feeling so defeated. And just you acknowledging that this is hard, like gave me like the okay that like I'm doing okay, right? And she's doing amazing with a really hard class. She's incredible. So I think the empathizing, I think sometimes to a fault, I can empathize where I maybe give a little more leeway and grace in times where I need to be a little bit harder. And so the good thing is I have a really great, Christine, who I spoke about at the Rockstar Award. She's been with me since before I opened. I hired her as an assistant director. She has turned into like we haven't really made an official title about it, but she really runs it with me. Like decision making, she can handle it. She's grown into this amazing leader, where when she started, she's like, I don't want to have that conversation. That sounds awful. And it would just be like, tell them they can't wear those shoes. That's not the right attire, whatever. And it would be nerve wracking for her. She's just developed into this beautiful leader. And so I think I lost track of my thought there of where I got on talking about her. But basically, I think if you understand what they're going through, they feel comfortable coming to you. So I think that's really where we've gotten. I was talking about the empathizing. So I was saying she balances. She says, we need to bring them in and discuss this right now. Like sometimes I can really kind of be like, well, I can see why that happened. And so that's probably a flaw of mine, but at the same time, I feel like I'm able to have those conversations. Right. It's a blessing and a curse, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah.
So I think that's part of my style, is that because of that connection piece, when there's a hard conversation to have, it doesn't even faze me. Like there's some that maybe make my heart beat a little bit faster because I don't know where it will go in the end, and being willing to say, like, it doesn't matter where it goes. We have to have this conversation. However they take it, they take it. I was once given advice from my brother, actually, one of my brothers, that said, if you go into a hard conversation expecting a bad outcome, you're going to say it differently. You're going to handle the conversation differently. If you go in there with no expectation of the outcome and just saying with whatever you're saying with love and respect, the outcome is almost always going to be better than it would be if you were saying it as if you're already wrong for saying it.
Right.
Right. And so that stuck with me. And I have conversations with that in mind. And I coach my staff to have conversations like that in mind. I remember my preschool teacher, who is incredible. She's a really gifted educator. So she was going to be giving her job notice to come take the job here. And she just was like, I'm so nervous. She'd been there for 5 years. I guess her leader at the time was not so easy to talk to. And she was scary and intimidating. And I told her that advice. I said, you need to say it with the excitement of this opportunity for yourself. If you're excited, however she handles that is how she's going to handle it. Right. But if you say it like you're wrong for letting her know you're taking a new opportunity, she's going to make you feel wrong. And so it's just kind of an example of how I have those conversations and coaching. So I just think having, lots of conversations.
Yeah. But I think what you said about not being attached to the outcome or having expectation to the outcome is huge. That's like everything, because just the awareness of, I definitely, if it goes this way, I'm going to feel like really disappointed. And so I got to really get my mind straight before I go into this conversation and try to work through any of that expectation, because then, no matter what happens, you have value, that person has value. You may or may not agree. You may not have the same perspective, but you could
Right.
still, respect each other, potentially love each other, care for each other, and that's just super healthy. Yeah. So I love that. Sounds very, very healthy. What is one thing that's working for you right now in your business that you can share with other owners? You shared a lot of what's working in your Rockstar presentation of what you've done to get such great results in your business. Mm-hmm. And so maybe you want to pick something from that list, Maria, that comes to mind, but anything that you'd like to share. Really, folks, the audience comes to this podcast looking for new, fresh ideas, nuts and bolts, or just going back to basics and best practices. So anything that you want to share that's working.
Yeah, I think that the number one thing, at least that I've been implementing from being in the academy, has been our systems and understanding like why they're important. Again, I don't want to blame everything on ADHD, but like it's real. And I struggle with systems. It's not my I'm not good at that. I'm really good at like coming up with good ideas, and then I have no idea how to implement them because my brain is a disaster. So I think getting systems in place, and also like I think when we joined the academy, like Christine, who's been by my side, like it was a breath of fresh air for her because she is organized, but she's like taking direction from me where I'm like, let's do this. Wait, let's do this. Let's do this. Let's do this. And I'm throwing 5,000 of my ideas at somebody at once. And then I might change my idea. Like, oh, you know what? I don't love it. We're going to switch it up. So I think just getting focused, like having a focus, and having the accountability piece of like I still am like, oh my God, what was the goal I was supposed to be working on? Did I do that before my next meeting? But it like helps me, knowing that somebody's going to be asking me like, did you reach your goal that you made for our next pod call? So I think that, and the systems piece of understanding roles, that was really big for us because we were very enmeshed of like whose duties were what, who did that, who didn't do that, whose fault was it, who's not, who's responsible for it. And so getting our roles straight, like that was the first thing we did after joining the academy. It was like, okay, you do these things, you do these things, you do these things. So that was really big for us because then we were efficient, right? Yes. Like we were not efficient. We're wasting so much time. And so that was a big piece of things. And then I would say that just being confident that like you have to overhire. It's okay if you're spending more money than you think you can afford on staff, because at the end of the day, you can always guarantee somebody's going to quit or you're going to let somebody go. Mm-hmm. So I think just always having extra, and you never know, like Monday, 2 people called out and it was unexpected, but we were fine. We weren't stressed. That taking away that anxiety that comes with being understaffed.
Yes.
That can be so crippling. Yep. And I think that that's something we can all relate to. If we're not going through it now, we've been through it before. Yeah. It's such a hard feeling to have, being understaffed and saying to your people, like, do you mind taking your lunch break in the room today? And then you're like, is that even legal? Like you start like processing all the things that you're doing. So it's like operating, under the idea that, and I have to say, like, just spending more money on investing in things like that and our systems has gotten us to make money. Like we were such a hard time to be in where you're making every decision based on your finances instead of just what do we need and what's right, and I think that's what's the right thing to do. And I think I'm very comfortable with if I'm making decisions and I know it's the right thing to do. If I lose a staff member over it, or if I lose a family over it, but it was the right call, I can sleep. I can live with myself. And I also know that all the other people that are happy with that decision are happy. Right. So I think um, giving the staff, right, to work
Yeah.
with instead
Hmm.
of constantly being stressed out and having them feel. I think we were all under that, like, staff were nervous to call out sick when they were sick. Like,
Yeah.
you're sick, you're unhealthy, you really
Right.
don't want to be around kids
That's right.
screaming in your ears all day.
Hmm.
And they have that right? They should get to be sick.
Yes.
So it was one of those things. And I'm happy to be in a place where when somebody's sick, instead of being worried about the business, I have empathy. I'm like,
Hmm.
that sucks, you're sick. Like, right? Versus like, oh my God, what am I going to do? I wasn't
Right.
even thinking about how they were doing at that time,
Right.
you
Yeah. I
know?
mean, when you're fighting a fire about covering ratio, you're not able to care about the people on your team.
Right.
You're just
Right.
in that
Yeah.
place.
So I think those are the things. It's still
Yeah.
hard. I don't want to say it's not still hard to find good people. Like, it's a hard job to staff for because of what we're fighting globally with childcare, right? It's not a career for a lot of people because they can't pay their bills with it. And
Right.
so I think that's a big part too. I do some advocacy work in the childcare world. And
Great.
so it's, again, that takes a lot of time. I don't always have the time to do as much as I should be doing with it. Um, but it's a big part of where we need to go.
Hmm. Yeah, it is for sure. For sure. What is a time that you were really struggling in your business and how did you overcome the struggle?
Yeah. So a time that I was really struggling was right before the summit of, what was that, 2022?
Yeah.
That whole year was really hard. About a year and a half was really hard because of the staffing crisis that we were in. And, at that time, I don't even think we knew, was Grow Your Center recruiting even a thing then?
I think it was just starting.
Okay. So there was no like emergency number to call, I would say, right? There was no solution for the staffing crisis that was happening in 2020 to 2020 now, still now.
Yes.
Right. So there was no solution. And so it was just like, I felt like I couldn't get my head above the water when it came to staffing. And just like we were talking about with illnesses and sickness, and we all know like people were getting a lot sicker post COVID because immune systems were down from not having any germs for 2 years. And um, so there was a lot of sickness.
Hmm.
Uh, so we we're understaffed, and financially, I was just so scared. I was so scared because we were turning down families that wanted to enroll because I didn't have the staff. And I just made a promise like, the right thing to do is not enroll these kids because I don't have the staff for it. And it was really hard to make that call. It was really hard to do what's right at those times because so I think my integrity was being challenged in the sense that like I was being pulled in two different directions. Like, you need to make money and have families, and you need to do what's right and abide by what you were saying you were opening, which was a place with transparency, a place that is staffed with love, all those things. And so, and even with the COVID stuff with regulations, you had times where you're like, are we really going to shut down a whole room
Right.
because the one kid tested positive and he was here 2 days ago? And we just found out today, like, am I shutting down a whole room? And at the end of the day, I kept saying to myself, if I don't follow this reg and my staff know that I'm not following a reg, that's it. I've lost all of their trust
Yeah.
and it's over.
Right.
And so I kept trying to explain to families who were angry about the closures, like, I promise you, you want us to follow this rule because the second we stop following a rule, we can break any rule.
Right.
Right. And so then
Yeah.
how do you trust us?
Right.
How do you trust? And
Yeah.
so it was just, I felt such a pull in both directions. I knew the right thing to do, but it was like really hard to keep
Yeah.
making those decisions. And, we lost some families through that of
Mm-hmm.
getting sick of it. And they would call another daycare up the road and say, are you closing for every COVID? Oh, no, we haven't had any COVID in here. Like, I called myself as,
Uh-huh.
a test call, like, just what are your COVID protocols? Oh, we haven't had any cases of COVID. It's not even it's been
Right.
great. You're like,
Uh-huh.
yeah.
Sure.
So That I think
Wow.
was the point, and that was right before the summit. And we went to the summit, and Christine and I, and it was like, oh man, the feeling was like somebody literally breathed life back into my body, where I was like, okay, I know exactly what I need to do. I need to invest in all the things. And it was like I was doing the math, and thank God somebody told me about the ERC. I think
Right.
it was I think
Yep.
it was actually, who was it?
Might have been Samantha from Comploy, or it might have been Tom on the team. But was this in Nashville or was this in Vegas? Because
No,
Vegas was the
it was Nashville.
okay. Because that Vegas was
And
even more COVID-y. It was, because that was 2021. And that was like,
yeah, no,
uh,
it was Nashville.
okay.
Vegas was your online one, right?
Nope.
I think we, no? Okay,
Nope.
so we didn't do Vegas.
Okay.
We
Yeah.
did Nashville,
Okay.
and I was like, all right, as it pays, like if I get the funds, which
Yeah.
I hope I will, like it will pay for a year of membership for the Child Care Success Academy and for Honest Buck and Grow Your Center. And so I just kind of like, I was
Did that.
signed up for
Right.
everything and was like, it's all good. And luckily my dad, who's my business partner, he's, a silent owner, but I run everything by him, and he's just a really good human. So I called him, and he just was like, he loved the confidence that I had in
Yeah.
saying, like, I was like, I have a solution. We're going to be great. And so he was like, amazing. Because I was like really emotionally in a very bad place.
Right.
At the time. Just mentally, I was all done. I really was struggling. So
Yeah.
it was
Well,
a
and
good,
that's a very common thing that people find us when they're down and out and they're struggling and they're thinking about selling their business, and then we get them re-inspired to
yeah.
stay in the game. So if I had a nickel for every time I've heard that story,
Yeah.
which, makes me excited, because when I think about it, we've probably saved, I don't know, 500 centers from being sold
Right.
or closed.
Right.
Certainly during COVID, it was probably more than that. So thanks for sharing that. And I'm really glad that you obviously came in and made the investment. And thank you, ERC, Employee Retention Credit, for helping Maria see that she could actually do it.
Right.
But even if you don't have the ERC, it's worth
Yeah.
the investment, because it just helps you get your mind right and helps you start diving in to fix all the things in your business. So with regard to Grow Your Center, did you join just the recruitment piece, or what did you join over there? Did
No,
you get the
we did the
website?
website.
Okay.
Yeah, it was the website and Google Ads. We
Okay.
did the recruitment also, which again, it freed up my time. If nothing else, I was like, first of all, I'm not a recruiter. Like that's not my
Right.
role. I don't
Right.
want to look at people's
Yeah.
resumes, call them and leave messages and um, so that was a big part of it. And it took a while. Like it definitely was a time, I was probably impatient with it, because I was just like, I need staff now. Because when we got back, that was when between new hires that we had planned to start and people giving notice and people having mental breakdowns of their own, that was an emotional time for, I think, just humans overall. Right. So like
Yeah.
the mental health status of a lot of people was just it wasn't great.
Right.
So, and again, in the childcare world, I would say a lot of that was that pressure of like, you can't ever call out without feeling that guilt, at that time.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a lot of pressure,
Yeah.
to not take a day off. And so I think having come back from that and being so understaffed, like we were so understaffed when we got back from Nashville that I had to change my hours effective immediately. We did not have the staff to cover the whole day. And I would not go out of ratio. And I wasn't about to tell my staff they're working open to close. It just was like, this is what it is. And it was
Right.
hard. So that went on for about 3 months.
Mm-hmm.
So Grow Your Center, yeah, that took that off of our plates. And then by January got staffed. So that was from October to January. And then
Nice.
Yeah.
Love it.
Yeah.
So what is the biggest benefit that you've gotten from being in the Child Care Success Academy and coaching with me?
Mindset, I'd say, is the biggest, which has such a big impact, because it impacts, one, how you work, right?
Yep.
What are you willing to implement and get focused on? It impacts how you interact with people. It impacts how you think about the big picture and not just the right now.
Yep.
So that there were so many things about the mindset that had happened for me that just created a lot of open doors for us in terms of what we thought we like. I think we were just in that mindset of like, well, there's no way we could do that. We
Right.
can't do this. We can't do this. Everything was like, why we can't do something
Yes.
versus like, who cares? Let's do this. And if it fails, we'll try something else. Like it changed our mindset a lot. And again, I think just gave us the capability of feeling like you could breathe and like also just on a personal level, like I could also still go back to being a mom. I basically stopped being a mom for 2 years.
Wow.
I just couldn't handle both.
Mm-hmm.
And my husband stepped in and he did it lovingly, thank God, with no resentment. But my kids were like really missing me.
Yeah.
And I couldn't even miss them because I was too focused. Like I was
Right.
like, I gotta just save this.
Wow.
And I think just that ability to like give myself permission. It's still hard for me. Luckily, my staff believe in the academy and what it does too, but it is hard for me still because you have that your guilt to say like, I'm going to work from home today because I know I need to get X, Y, and Z done. But like
Yep.
last week I worked from home and I got all of my raises done of doing all the numbers. Like I never get that much done when I'm here.
Right.
So it's like that permission to work out of your business
Yeah.
and, get focused and do things and be productive and not
Yep.
just be in like, I know they need me here also where it's like, because of the personality, interactions, they do like when I'm here, but there's also days where they're like, we don't need you. And also you're a big distraction and you talk a lot. So,
Right.
and I'm like, I want to be with people. So I don't want to
Right.
close my door to my office. Like I want to be,
Right.
I am like,
Yeah. You're very
dorky.
social, extroverted.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
awesome. So I love that. Where are you headed for 2024? What's next?
It's a great question. One of the reasons I really wanted to win the Rockstar was to have this business coaching with you because
Yeah.
I'm not sure. I don't have the same vision for like having a bunch of centers. I think part of me is like I love the small feel. I do. But I also want to create something where I can give opportunity. Right. So it's like, how do you do both? So I'm trying to figure out my next plan for how do we grow in the way where I can continue giving opportunities to people.
Mm-hmm.
We've been able to do that where I've said, okay, we've gotten this much more enrollment. Now I'm making, Miss Sherry into a curriculum coordinator for infants and toddlers and taking her out of a room because she's all done with being in a room. I could give her that opportunity. I was able to, create an assistant director / program. She's basically a program manager. She does so much more. Assistant director doesn't give it justice what she
Right.
does. This girl, Leah, that works with me,
Okay.
she just does everything. Like
Yeah.
she took over scheduling for me. She's taken over so many things. And so just giving people opportunities. I now
Yeah.
pay 2 of my staff to do social media. And so how do you continue to do that for people if you're not growing? So I think that's where I'm trying to figure out like, and we do have room to grow. We still have spaces to fill. We're not 100% at full capacity yet, mostly just because of our fours. Our
Right.
infants and toddlers are completely full. And then our 3s and our 4s are still where we're needing to fill the spots, which I think is pretty
Right.
typical for most people, especially when you're newer, still being in that 3-year mark. We just had our 3-year anniversary. So it's,
Mm-hmm.
we still have room to grow, which is going to do big things for us when we get completely full. But I think figuring out the next steps, like you talked about, of like whether it's the parenting coaching piece, and developing another business out of that. I don't know if my goal is, 3, 4 centers. I know everybody says it's easier once you get past 2.
Yeah.
My brain's not there yet.
Yeah. It's really depending on your personal goals, what you want to achieve, what's your revenue goal, what you want your life to look like. Your kids are still little.
Yeah.
because I don't think that Coach Donna expanded to her second and third center until her kids were teenagers.
Right.
So yeah, it's all based in timing. And I would love to have a one-on-one with you at some point, or we can continue working together on this for the next year in coaching. Cause you had a great submission and you did amazing on stage at Rockstar, and only one of the four of you could win.
I know, that's okay. You know what? They were great winners. I sure love
them. The Logans. But you did awesome, Maria. And I am excited to see where you go with it, because your passion is there. And I can tell that you're a really good leader and you're running a high quality program for sure. So, and the integrity that you talked about, like sticking to the regs, because this is how we do it. This is how we roll around here. We're a place of integrity, and the place down the street might not be, but we're going to be, so I love that. How can people find out more about your school? What's your website address and, or any kind of contact information that you want to give the listeners? And then any final thoughts that you want to share before we say goodbye?
So the website is paperplaneselc.com. Grow Your Center did it. It's an awesome website. And you can go on our Facebook page. You can go on our Instagram page. I should have been prepared because I don't even know my Instagram handle.
It's okay.
But you can also find me on Facebook, Maria Ahrens, and you can email me at info@paperplaneselc.com anytime. And I think also following our Instagram, I love that our teachers do it. They do a really great job. I'm always impressed with them because I can't do it the way that they do it. So checking them out is great. Cool. And I think the number one thing I would want to share with people who feel stuck is that you don't have to stay stuck. Mm-hmm. Like, I think it's okay to give yourself permission, whether you borrow money or you take out a loan or you just spend money that you don't have, because that's what we did, is to invest in yourself, whether it's, the academy, which I do have to say has been game changing when my mind was open to it. What I didn't share on here is that I did join the academy previously in 2020 and I wasn't ready. So it didn't do anything for me because I didn't care enough at that time. And I was too focused on opening during COVID, and I just couldn't give it the time that it needed. And maybe I didn't know the time that it needed also. So showing up for meetings and actually going on and looking at the resources, creating the e-packet for hiring, creating a bunch of documents. We have so many documents that we've just used the template for that I've tweaked and obviously made it ours. Yeah. But those things matter, being able to hand a prospective teacher an e-packet with look at our benefits, look at it matters to them because they're showing up to these other places that aren't doing that.
That's right.
And I think also, again, I should be better with my numbers. I'm great because I have honest buck, but I'm still very unaware of what technical budget I have for a Christmas party. And I'm still going all out because I'm I don't exist without these teachers. I'm going all out for Christmas. I don't, the money will come. It's fine.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's not I'm spending $10,000 on it and putting us in debt over it, but it's don't be cheap when it comes to your staff. That's what I would say.
Yeah.
Take care of your people, buy them lunch, buy them coffee, $400 in a day to buy them lunch. If you have a larger staff, it goes a long way.
Yeah. It's super worth it. You don't have to spend a lot of money to make a big impact. Right. So I love that.
And again, if you're doing, whether you do the academy or not, I think doing your one-to-ones with your staff has been also an amazing way to connect with them. And we've talked about in our meetings, we don't always talk about work. Sometimes I'm just checking in with them on how they're doing. Yeah. Sometimes it's just focused on one kid, I'm having this hard thing. And so I give them,
pointers.
It can be on anything. Yeah.
That's great. Yeah. One-on-ones with your staff, guys. One of the top things that we've taught really the industry to do, because still a lot of schools are not doing one-on-ones. And I've had so many teachers share with me, in my career, I've never had leadership where, they do one-on-ones and they show they care and they do things for the team. And they give us orientation and onboarding and they train us. And so all those things really matter. And thanks, Maria, for
they want it.
Yes, they're hungry for it.
Are we having our meeting today?
Yeah.
Like they get excited for it.
That's awesome. Well, the mark of a true leader, Maria Ahrens, thank you so much for being with us today on the podcast. I have loved hearing your story and getting to know you even more deeply. Congrats for standing up for yourself to show up as a rock star, be on stage, show your story, share your story. And we love you. Thank you so much for sharing today.
Thank you for having me.
All right. Thanks, everybody, so much. All right. Take care. And we will see y'all next time. Take care and God bless. Bye-bye. I hope you liked this episode of Childcare Rockstar Radio. If you did, please share it with someone you know and help spread the word to your friends in our industry and on social media. Childcare business success is my passion, and I'm honored to be on this journey with you. As a thank you for listening, learn more about how to grow your business and make more income with our brand new free quiz, the What's My Number One Income Killer quiz, exclusively for preschool and childcare owners. Take the quiz today at childcarequiz.com to discover what your number one income killer is and how to solve it. Take care and God bless.